Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
More than 1 million people flocked to the city of brotherly love to see Pope Francis. I'm Carolyn McGrath. I'll have the story.
I'm David Martin. I'll have the story of area scouts who gathered to share their faith and participate in activities at the annual Scout Retreat weekend at Camp Holy Cross.
And Mark Giza reviews some fall films. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel.
Here is your Reel host, Sharon Roulier.
Hello and welcome again to Reel. They've spent decades promoting the sanctity of life from womb to tomb, a message heartily endorsed by Pope Francis during his visit to the U.S. Now dozens of local pro-life friends branched out to start a new group with the mission of educating people, especially our youth, about the intrinsic value of every human being, including the unborn, sick, and forgotten. In honor of the start of Respect Life Month, Reel to Reel's Carolyn McGrath introduces us now to the members of ProLife of Pioneer Valley.
Now, biggest heartache of my life turned into the biggest joy of my life.
A touching testimony from a Holyoke grandmother whose college-bound high school senior and model found herself pregnant right before graduation a few years ago. The Latchett family might not have expected to be a pro-life witness, but they moved most people to tears at the log cabin breakfast sponsored by ProLife of Pioneer Valley.
Our beautiful Bella is now 5 years old, hard to believe. And my daughter, the statistic, who so graciously let me tell her story today, our story, will be taking her final exams this week and then will officially be a senior on the Dean's List for the AIC nursing program.
Close to 200 people gathered for ProLife of Pioneer Valley's kickoff event. The breakfast was a way to welcome new members and build support for the group. Longtime pro-life advocate Fred Glidden is the group's president.
As you can see, we're a little bit chaotic today because we didn't know how many were going to show up. We were thinking of 50, 75, 100, and it's more than double that. And it's overwhelming, but it's beautiful to think that we have all these wonderful people that can come together and help support us.
Glidden and several former members of the Pioneer Valley, Massachusetts Citizens for Life broke away from the Boston-based organization Mass Citizens for Life in January. Glidden says growing tensions over the parent group's increased oversight was making it too difficult to operate. So Glidden and several longtime members of PVMCFL, who have been the backbone of pro-life work in the Pioneer Valley for 4 decades, are looking forward to continuing under a new name. Glidden says that he and all of the members of the organization are strictly volunteers.
We're more than anti-abortion, okay? We're pro-life. And we're pro-life from what we've been taught since we were infants, from the moment of conception to the hour of natural death. And we want to work in those particular areas, not just with the young, but with the elderly too.
Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky attended the event and encouraged those gathered to keep being witnesses for life, even though it can be a difficult task.
I think for the pro-life movement, being able to, first of all, come together in prayer and in support of one another, and secondly, in the witness of being outside of abortion clinics and being able to pray, being able to offer alternatives to women who are seeking abortion, and also to realize, too, the psychological harm that comes to both women and men from the sin of abortion. All helps to put everything in perspective and the crucial work that we do in pro-life, and that we're not going to stop. It might be against the tide, but we are not going to stop, and our message is getting out loud and clear.
We have a wonderful organization that's going to be working with the schools and the kids to try to get our message across of the importance of being pro-life.
ProLife of Pioneer Valley is still working on their agenda, which will also include a spaghetti dinner fundraiser and rose sale. 28-year-old Lauren Bernalt's family has been active in pro-life work for decades. She says women facing a crisis pregnancy need to know there are people out there willing to help.
A lot of women are, made to feel like it is their only choice, whether they don't have support from their family, from their community, from their religious community, whatever it is, making sure that they know that, as a pro-life family or as a pro-life community, that if, God forbid, they're, in a situation where they might consider abortion, that they do have other choices.
The new organization will work with other pro-life groups and crisis pregnancy centers to help spread the pro-life message and reach those who are most in need. In Holyoke, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And another pro-life effort underway is the annual 40 Days for Life, a vigil and fast to end abortion. These are peaceful and prayerful vigils designed to give a positive witness to life outside agencies like Planned Parenthood. But organizers need more volunteers to pledge a few hours to stand out for life. For more information, call Tim Biggins at 413-342-0403. And we also have more information through a link on our website at iobserve.org. In other news, nearly 100 Boy and Girl Scouts from parishes in Western Massachusetts spent their annual retreat weekend getting in touch with nature and celebrating their faith at Camp Holy Cross in Goshen last weekend. Faith and family was the theme for this year's event. David Martin tells us more.
Boy and Girl Scouts from the Springfield Diocese were anxious to participate in fun activities with fellow Scouts while learning about religious education during the annual Scouting retreat at Camp Holy Cross in Goshen. The first full day began with a talk given by visiting priest Yerrick Mendez about this year's theme, Faith and Family. Father Yerrick told the Scouts that religious beliefs develop within the family first, with the parents passing their knowledge and love of God to their children. They in turn utilize that love for God to become a family within their church and spread it further through love for neighbor. Father Yerrick hopes Scouts will take the opportunity to further consider thoughts about faith and share them with their own families and scouting groups.
So that it becomes as natural to these Scouts as going out and setting up a tent or building a fire or tying a knot, that prayer and faith becomes just part of the daily fabric of their life, because as human beings, our spiritual side is a part of our daily life.
Scouts then divided up and traveled to various sections of the camp for different activities led by core group members. Path to God, for example, involves Scouts making their way through an obstacle course at the athletic field while answering questions about religion. The Scouts learned the importance of demonstrating their faith by rotating from activity to activity, learning the importance of working well with other Scouts. After a 30-minute period, Scouts were signaled to rotate to the next activity by a Scout leader striking a bell at the chapel. Father Eugene Plass, chaplain of Scouts for the Springfield Diocese, said he was excited to see how the rest of the day turned out and would be with the Scouts every step of the way.
I think they'll just get along very well, and that's important for them to have some glowing thing to remember and come back to, that they can come into a Scout retreat, and even if they haven't been practicing their faith very much, they can get re-enlivened and pulled together.
One activity, titled Not About Bunnies, took place at the pavilion. In going along with this year's theme, Scouts conversed about the many holidays which they spend with family. The topic of discussion led to Holy Week and the important days that marked this Lenten period. Scouts were then asked to create origami butterflies. Core member and Star Scout Isabella Ferraro said butterflies indicate new life and is an alternate symbol of the Easter holiday instead of the Easter bunny and colored eggs. The butterflies were then placed on a wreath shaped as a cross. Isabella liked the idea of Scouts rotating from activity to activity.
I think it's good. They mix up the groups so they're not necessarily with others from their troop, so they get a chance to meet new people and put themselves out there more. The rotations are good, so it's different variations of activities. Some are more sit down and kind of talk and reflect on our faith, while others are focused on physical activity and get them more pumped up and excited to learn more while still learning about the faith.
Throughout the retreat, core members also performed various skits with their fellow Scouts.
Praise the Lord! God, I need food!
It's just loads of fun. You get to hang out with them, play games, just camp out, just enjoy each other's company. Also learn more about your faith.
Christian Pierce, a Star Scout and core group member, said the skits encourage scouts to learn because they are more entertaining than in a school setting. He was looking forward to experiencing the other events taking place this weekend. For Reel to Reel, I'm David Martin.
Later in the day, the scouts hiked into the woods where they ate lunch and prayed the rosary that evening in the chapel. And David tells us they are already planning next year's retreat for the last weekend of September. So scouts, mark your calendars now. And still to come on Reel to Reel, Mark Giza gives us his latest Hollywood picks. And pilgrims from the Diocese of Springfield travel to Philadelphia to see the Pope. These stories and more are still to come on this edition of Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passion's Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning at 10. We welcome Father William Lunny as our Mass presider and celebrate the start of Respect Life Month. The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on 22 News.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel news brief. During his visit to the United States, Pope Francis again expressed his deep admiration to women religious who have been the backbone of the Catholic Church. That was no doubt a welcomed message to the newest member of the Sisters of St. Joseph, who took her vows this past summer. Rebecca Drake reports.
History was made on a recent Sunday afternoon as the Sisters of St. Joseph of Springfield welcomed the first African-American woman to the congregation. Holy Name Church in Springfield overflowed with more than 300 worshipers as Sister Melinda Pellerin made her first profession of vows.
Led by the Holy Spirit in all things, I now join with the congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Springfield. I am united to Christ in joyous service to the whole church.
A retired public school teacher and a native of the former Holy Family Parish in Springfield, Sister Melinda says the profession of vows is the culmination of a lifelong journey.
At one point during the ceremony on the altar, the sun seems to have come through, and so I thought, this is the Holy Spirit, and this is the culmination of just my spiritual journey through my life.
Sister Maxine Schneider, president of the Sisters of St. Joseph, says that as a mature adult, Sister Melinda brings unique gifts to the congregation.
And so Melinda brings the fruits of that earlier part of her life so well lived. And anyone who has seen her knows that she is just so gifted in any ways ministerially.
Sister Melinda, in turn, credits her gifts and her vocation to the sisters she knew as a student at the former Holy Family School.
At first it was about their habit. There was something about the habit, but the smile on their faces and what they brought to the children at Holy Family School. I always said, I want to be a teacher just like they are.
And as for making history as the first African-American woman in her community, Sister Melinda also has this to say about the sisters.
They have opened up to me with open arms and open hearts, so it's exciting. I think this whole journey and this process to today is just filled with hope for our future.
A journey she hopes to continue as pastoral minister at Holy Name Parish.
And Sister Melinda can take great inspiration from those who have served in her community. That includes this year's class of Jubilarians. Carolee McGrath tells us more.
They professed their vows 50 years ago, and on a recent Sunday, 11 Sisters of St. Joseph of Springfield renewed their commitment to Christ and His Church at a special Mass at Montmarie Chapel in Holyoke.
I'm happy to be here with community, the Sisters of St. Joseph, and particularly with my party, the group that I entered the community with in 1965. I have family members here, which adds to the joy of the occasion.
Sister Reagan grew up in Pittsfield and attended public schools. She says she fondly remembers the Sisters of St. Joseph who taught her religious education at Sacred Heart Parish. Sister Reagan served on the faculty of Elms College in Chicopee for 40 years.
The day, I guess, symbolizes, a life of commitment and service. I just said to someone this morning, I'm happy to be celebrating 50 years and I don't regret a day of it.
Sister Patricia Murphy was born in Holyoke and attended St. Jerome Parish. She also spent many years in education and was vice president of the Sisters of St. Joseph from 2005 to 2011. She says she looked up to this community as a child.
And they just set such an example to me of the service that they did and the outreach that they did for God's poorest people. They were just a blessing to me, and for some reason, God said, I want you, and I followed the call.
Sister Kathleen Hinga entered the community from St. Mary Parish in Westfield. Sister Hinga taught at St. Agnes Academy in Dalton, Holy Name in Springfield, and Sacred Heart in Holyoke. She also co-founded Montague Catholic Social Ministries in Franklin County.
It's also, I think, a time of reflection in terms of a little bit of loss. There's 2 of the 3 people that from the group that are deceased, less close with.
During the Mass, the community remembered 3 sisters from the entrance class of 1965 who passed away. They include Sister St. Paul Collard, Sister Van Houten, and Sister Marie Martin, the beloved sister of Peggy Weber, a longtime reporter for Reel to Reel. Father John Madden from St. John Church in Worcester celebrated the Mass. Also celebrating their Golden Jubilees are Sister Linda Fallon, Sister Catherine Gallagher, Sister Sheila Murphy, Sister Rhea Quinton, Sister Roberta Sala, Sister Jean Schneider, Sister Joan Schneider, and Sister Linda Wilk. Sister Wilk was not present at the ceremony. She's currently missioned in Sheltering Wings in West Africa.
And remember to stay informed on all the happenings in the Catholic Church. You can log on to our news and information website, iobserve.org. There you'll find up-to-the-minute and accurate news in the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and beyond. That's our news and information website, iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and that's your Reel to Reel News Brief.
Well, it's fall, and as a film critic, the great films start rolling in. Here are 3 of my personal favorites. Our first great drama of the fall is called Pawn Sacrifice, a film filled with such emotion and power we relish every moment of this gem. The story is the story of the great Bobby Fischer, a poor kid from Brooklyn who became the master of his game. The game, you ask? Well, chess, of course. And his rival in life? The great Russian master, Boris Spassky, both played by great actors, Tobey Maguire as Fischer and Spassky played by the always perfect Lev Schreiber. Now, the movie is set in 1972, when the famous match was played, and boy, oh boy, what a match it was. This is a great movie with great actors. What else do you need? It's rated PG-13.
I don't really care about politics. You're the one man in this country who could put up a fight.
Bobby Fischer is in Iceland for his match with the world champion Boris Spassky. It's the chess version of a 15-round heavyweight prize fight.
And now a movie that will make you feel happy it's not winter yet. In the film Everest, 2 mountain climbers take a group of people on a trek that they will never forget. Without giving away too much, it's filled with ice and snow and howling winds. Well, I had to button up my coat just by watching this very intense film. The main reason to see it is the special effects. Just perfect. How did they do it? And who will survive? Buy your ticket and your hat and gloves and find out.
They see a regular guy can follow impossible dreams. Maybe they'll do the same.
And finally, a simple, great film. A movie that gives you a lift and makes your faith stronger. 90 Minutes in Heaven is the true story of Don Piper, A man who was hit by a truck, died, went to heaven, but came back to the people he loved because of prayers that were offered and because God gave him a second chance. You know, it's so nice to see a film with a real sense of love and faith. This movie made me cry, smile, and thank God for my family and the power of prayer. And in this world filled with over-the-top movies, it's nice to see a simple movie with a strong moral topic. This should be on the top of your must-see list.
I'm ready to die. You got all these people who care so much for you, and you have no idea how much they love you.
We're gonna pray all night for you. We're taking over from here.
And you can see my reviews as well as read other movie reviews provided by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops online at iobserve.org. That's iobserve.org. And for local theater, why not check out A Streetcar Named Desire playing at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield? A fabulous musical called She Loves Me, presented by the Opera House Players in Broadbrook, Connecticut. It's a great family musical. And coming soon to the great Hartford stage, Kevin Bacon and Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. And we'll take you there, right here on Real Culture. For Real Culture, I'm Mark Giza. Enjoy this fabulous weekend.
Hundreds of people from the Diocese of Springfield headed down to Philadelphia last weekend for the final papal mass. Reel to Reel's Carolee McGrath and photographer Sean Manning took the trip as well and captured the story of Catholics from around the world coming together to pray for and with Pope Francis.
They left in the dark, hundreds of pilgrims from the Diocese of Springfield boarding 4 buses at Mary Mother of Hope Parish in Springfield. It was a 5-hour journey. People packed lightly and prepared for a long day in Philadelphia. But no one complained because as they stepped off the buses at the Wells Fargo Center, they joined hundreds of thousands of Catholics all on the same mission to greet the Holy Father in his first trip to America. And everyone you met, including transit employees directing crowds through the subway system, seemed to be on a Holy Spirit high. 15-year-old Tess Hill, an honors student and parishioner at St. Cecilia's Parish in Wilbraham, made the trip with her mom, Dr. Maria Hill.
It's very early. You have a lot of homework. Is this worth it?
Yes, it's very worth it. It's very important to come.
It's a wealth of different nationalities and different people all coming together to pray and to have faith and to show the world that we are really so excited to have this opportunity to be here.
I think it's just such a momentous time in our lives. I mean, the Pope coming to our country, it doesn't happen every year. It doesn't happen every 5 years, and just something really incredible to be a part of. It's so many different people coming together for our faith, our Catholic faith. It's fantastic.
More than 1 million people from around the world flocked to Philly for the Pope's final open mass on Benjamin Franklin Parkway, capping off his 6-day whirlwind tour in the U.S., including our own Bishop Mitchell Rosansky. Security, as you can imagine, was extremely tight, and the lines were long to get in. 20-year-old Krista Goebel, the co-president of the Newman Club at Amherst College, was one of the lucky ones.
We got to the area, the cutoff area. It was a group of 6 of us. 5 went through. I was like the 6th. I was the person bringing up the rear. The security guard cuts us off right at me, and so we literally just made it. I was just like, those are my friends. That's my group right over there. And they said, okay, go through. So we literally just made it by the skin of our teeth.
The Philadelphia native took this picture of Pope Francis on her phone.
It was really, really amazing, just watching the screen, watching him kiss all these babies. There was one point when some children made holy cards for him, hand-drawn holy cards, and so he got out of the Pope mobile to go and check those out. So that was really cool.
Other groups from the diocese, including groups from Our Lady of Guadalupe in Holyoke, St. Agnes in Dalton, and St. Stan's in Chicopee, did make it into the Mass. But with crowds like this, many people did not, like Milton Rico, a senior at Amherst College. Milton is also from Philadelphia. His parents and 3 siblings were part of the Latino choir that sang during the Mass. He watched the Mass outside the security area.
To see my mom on the screen singing for the Pope, this is something they've done for years, for decades. My parents actually met singing, and they devoted 20 years of their life to sing for the church. And for them to be there today was very gratifying.
Jack McGrath from St. Cecilia's also didn't make it into the Mass, but he says he was happy to represent youth from his church and witness for Christ.
Do you regard him as that, as a hero?
I definitely do, because he died for our sins and he made sure we can stand here. It's good to worship Jesus and the Catholic faith in itself, and really want to get up there, so I mean.
The teens kept the faith and had a great attitude on the long trip. Jack's buddy Noah Kozub, also from St. Cecilia's, is the oldest of 7. He says he loves the Pope's pro-life message, but hopes it doesn't get lost in the secular headlines.
The message is that all life matters, human life is number one, and then comes creation, but kind of the media makes it seem like creation is higher than human life in some instances, but that's kind of his message, just human life is number one, but also to regard what God's given us, creation.
People from all over the world stood shoulder to shoulder and kept in good spirits, praying together as they waited. Priests also did their part, spreading the Pope's message.
The good Lord bless you all, give you all the graces from today's Mass, directly from the heart of the Pope, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you guys.
So you would think, after waiting for more than 5 hours to get into the papal Mass in Philadelphia, that people would be upset when they were told it's over. But surprisingly, everybody is so good to each other. They're singing spontaneously church hymns and happy birthday to each other. And it's really a feeling of Catholics from all around the world just celebrating the fact that we are Catholic and celebrating Christ in the good news.
10-year-old Anna Benner from Pennsylvania celebrated her birthday in line.
Why did you want to see the Pope?
Because it will make me a big part of something, and all these people in the Catholic Church.
And then there was this.
Started singing with you.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I feel like I am part of the church, and everybody here is also part of the church.
Part of the church and grateful for the presence of the Holy Father, who leads the church and all people to Christ. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
What amazing memories those pilgrims will have. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you can watch all of our past segments and programs online on our YouTube channel. We have a link on our website at iobserve.org. And there you can also get up to date on all of the latest news from the Diocese of Springfield and beyond. That's iobserve.org. And for our viewers on WWLP 22 News, we will be off next week and back with you on October 17th. Everyone else, we will see you next week with an encore edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. We leave you now with a few parting images of Pope Francis's historic visit to our nation.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.